You must enjoy bringing color into your life. I suppose everyone has their preferences. The words hung in the air like poison around the dinner table. Silverware stopped moving. Conversations died mid-sentence. Everyone knew what Elyra Davenport really meant. Sarai Duke, dressed in an emerald gown that made her dark skin glow like bronze, didn't flinch. She didn't raise her voice. She simply smiled and said, "You're right. Not everyone can." Elyra blinked, confused. She had no idea she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. 2 weeks later, one email would erase millions of dollars. A luxury hotel project would crash overnight, and a millionaire's wife would learn a lesson she'd never forget. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Narrative Room. And if you're new here, welcome to the family. Before we dive into this powerful story about respect, dignity, and karma, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment below. It seriously helps YouTube push this video to more people who need to hear this message. Have you ever been looked down on because of who you love? Or judged because of what you look like? Have you ever watched someone underestimate the wrong person? That's exactly what happened at a fancy dinner party in Atlanta, Georgia. A millionaire's wife thought she could insult a successful black CEO and walk away without consequences. She thought wrong. This is a story about Sarai Duke, a self-made tech CEO worth millions. It's about Rowan Hale, the white man from Oregon who loved her with his whole heart. And it's about Elyra Davenport, a woman who let her prejudice cost her everything. Stay with me until the end because this twist, you won't see it coming. Let's get into it. Atlanta, Georgia, the city where music fills the streets, ambition runs in people's blood, and success stories are born in living rooms and garages before they ever reach boardrooms. In the heart of Cascade Heights, one of Atlanta's most beautiful black neighborhoods, lived Sarai Duke. Her house sat on a tree-lined street where kids played double dutch on summer evenings, and neighbors knew each other's names. On Sundays, you could smell pepper soup and warm bread floating from kitchen windows. But Sarai's life was anything but ordinary. At 38 years old, she was a founder and CEO of Duke Innovations, a tech and design company that was turning heads across the country. Her business combined West African art and style with modern American technology. Think smart home systems that looked like works of art, digital interfaces that felt like culture and innovation dancing together. She wasn't just wealthy, she was respected. Every achievement in Sarai's life had been earned. Long nights working until sunrise, prayers whispered when bank accounts ran low, rejection after rejection until one investor finally said yes. Years of proving she belonged in rooms where people didn't expect to see someone who looked like her. Now, those same rooms asked her to speak at their events. Tech conferences, design panels, charity galas. Atlanta's black business community embraced her as one of their brightest stars, and she gave back generously, mentoring young founders, funding art programs in schools, creating scholarships for black students studying engineering and design. People admired Sarai's drive, but what many didn't see was the softness underneath. The woman who loved cooking on Sunday mornings, who laughed at silly jokes, who believed in second chances. That softness was mostly saved for one person, Rowan Hale. Rowan was everything Sarai didn't expect. A white man from a small suburb in Oregon, raised in a world of quiet winter mornings, farmers markets on Saturday afternoons, and family cabins in the mountains. His childhood was filled with folk music, homemade pies cooling on windowsills, and stories about hiking trails instead of city festivals. He grew up in stillness. Sarai grew up in rhythm. They met at an art auction in New York City 3 years ago. Both reached the same painting at the exact same moment. An abstract piece that looked like a storm frozen in time, all dark blues and electric whites. Their fingers brushed. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Rowan said, pulling his hand back quickly. His face turned red with embarrassment. Sarai looked at him and laughed. "You're apologizing for liking good art?" "Well, He paused and smiled. "I guess that is pretty silly." "It is," she said, still smiling. "But it's sweet." They stood there talking for 20 minutes, then an hour. Then suddenly the auction was over, and they were the last two people in the room. Days later, they were still texting. Weeks later, they couldn't imagine going a day without talking. Months later, they realized they were building something real. Rowan loved Sarai's strength, her confidence, the way she spoke about her dreams like they were already real, just waiting to be built, the fire in her eyes when she talked about uplifting her community. Sarai loved Rowan's gentleness, his curiosity, the way he asked questions about her culture, her family, her experiences, not to judge, but to truly understand, his quiet support that never tried to steal her spotlight. They were different, yes, but they fit. Their relationship became a beautiful blend of two worlds. Rowan joined Sarai's family cookouts, nervously trying jollof rice for first time, while her cousins watched with knowing smiles. "You like it?" Sarai's aunt asked. "It's incredible," Rowan said, going back for seconds. "Good answer." Her uncle laughed, patting him on the back. Sarai joined Rowan on camping trips, learning to set up tents and build campfires, while he patiently showed her every step. "I still don't understand why we left perfectly good beds to sleep on the ground," she teased. "Because the stars look better out here," he said, pointing up at the night sky. She looked up and had to admit, he was right. Rowan wasn't wealthy. He worked as a manager at a digital marketing firm. Good salary, steady job, nothing flashy. But Sarai never cared about that. She didn't fall in love with a bank account. She fell in love with a good heart. "Money comes and goes," she told her best friend once. "But a man who respects you, supports you, and loves you for real, that's rare." For 3 years, they built their life together. Late-night brainstorming sessions about her business. Long drives talking about everything and nothing. Intellectual debates about art, culture, and what makes a life meaningful. And through it all, a gentle kind of love that never felt rushed or forced. They didn't match on paper, but in real life, they were perfect. Every love story eventually faces a test. For Sarai and Rowan, that test came in the form of Elyra Davenport. Elyra was married to Elyra Davenport, a millionaire investor who'd made his fortune through real estate and luxury hotels. The Davenports were the kind of couple whose names floated through Atlanta's wealthy social circles. They attended every important event, donated to the right charities, and hosted elaborate dinner parties that people talked about for weeks. Montrell himself was decent enough, professional, respected in business. He wasn't flashy, and he usually kept his wife's sharper edges in check when they were in public. But Elyra, she was different. Elyra carried herself like the world owed her something, like every room should rearrange itself when she walked in. She loved status, loved being seen, and loved reminding people that she was married to money and power. She also had outdated, ugly ideas about who belonged where and with whom. The trouble started when Rowan's small marketing project suddenly went viral. A campaign he'd worked on for months caught fire on social media, generating millions of views and industry buzz. Montrell Davenport noticed and saw potential. "I want to celebrate your success," Montrell told Rowan over the phone. "Join us for dinner this Saturday. Bring your partner. Let's talk about future opportunities." Rowan was excited. This could be huge for his career. "Will you come with me?" he asked Sarai that evening. She looked up from her laptop. "A fancy dinner party?" "I know it's not your favorite thing," he said, "but it would mean a lot to have you there." Sarai didn't care much for social climbing or status games, but she cared about Rowan. "Of course I'll go," she said, kissing his cheek. "We're a team." Neither of them knew what was coming. Saturday evening arrived wrapped in golden light. The dinner was held at a grand hall in Buckhead, one of Atlanta's wealthiest neighborhoods. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. A jazz band played soft music that floated through the air. Tables were covered in white silk, decorated with flowers that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Everywhere Sarai looked, she saw diamonds, designer dresses, and people sizing each other up through fake smiles. She walked in wearing a deep emerald gown that hugged her curves and made her dark skin glow. Her natural hair was styled in elegant twists. She looked powerful, confident, beautiful. Rowan held her hand, pride written all over his face. As they entered, A few people turned to look, then a few more. "Wait, isn't that Sarai Duke?" someone whispered. "The tech CEO? Oh my God, it is. I heard she just closed a deal with 3 major hotels. She's brilliant." The murmurs spread. Recognition rippled through the room. Some of Atlanta's black business leaders smiled and nodded at her with respect. But one person wasn't smiling. Elyra Davenport stood near the main table, champagne glass in hand, watching Sarai with cold eyes. She'd expected Rowan to come alone, or maybe with some quiet, forgettable date. Instead, he walked in holding hands with a successful, gorgeous black woman who was turning heads. Elyra's glossy smile flickered and died. Montrell approached him warmly. "Rowan, so glad you could make it." He turned to Sarai and extended his hand. "And you must be Sarai Duke. I've heard wonderful things about your work." "Thank you," Sarai said, shaking his hand. "It's nice to meet you." "Please, join us at the main table," Montrell said, gesturing toward where Elyra stood. They walked over. Elyra's eyes traveled up and down Sarai's body like she was examining a piece of questionable merchandise. "Your dress is quite bold," Elyra said. Her voice dripped with fake sweetness. "Very expressive. I guess it's a cultural thing." The table went quiet. A few people glanced at each other uncomfortably. Rowan's jaw tightened. Sarai, who dealt with this kind of ignorance her whole life, simply smiled. "It's a design for my brand. Actually, boldness is part of what we do." "Oh," Elyra said, smirking. "A fashion hobby? How nice." "It's not a hobby," Rowan said, his voice firm. "Sarai owns a Duke Innovations. It's a multi-million-dollar company." Elyra waved her hand dismissively. "I see." She turned her attention back to Sarai, her smile turning cold. "Well, Rowan, you certainly enjoy bringing color into your life. I suppose everyone has their preferences." The meaning behind her words was clear. Ugly, racist. People at the table froze. Some looked down at their plates. Others shifted uncomfortably. Rowan's face went red. "This conversation is completely inappropriate." Elyra shrugged, taking a sip of champagne. "Relax, dear. I'm just making conversation. Although," she leaned forward slightly, "Rowan, you're a smart, good-looking man with potential. Aren't you aiming for more? In this world, connections matter. Appearances matter. Some pairings just complicate things." Sarai sat completely still, her hands folded calmly in her lap. She'd fought bigger battles than this, faced worse ignorance. But watching this woman try to tear down her relationship with Rowan made something tight and hot rise in her chest. Montrell cleared his throat loudly. "Elyra, that's enough. Let's focus on the dinner." For a moment, the conversation shifted. Food was served. The jazz band played a softer melody. People tried to pretend nothing had happened, but ignorance rarely stops on its own. During dessert, someone at the table brought up charity work. Sarai mentioned her scholarship fund, a program that helped black students from low-income families pursue careers in technology and design. Elyra's laugh cut through the conversation like broken glass. "You run a scholarship?" she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "That's sweet. Though I suppose those communities need all the help they can get, don't they?" That was it. Rowan stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "We're leaving." Montrell looked mortified. "Rowan, please wait." But Sarai gently placed her hand on Rowan's arm. "It's okay," she said softly. Then she turned to Elyra with calm, pitying eyes. "You're absolutely right. Not everyone can rise to certain standards. Some people stay small no matter how much money they have." Elyra's smile faltered. She wasn't sure if she'd just been insulted. Sarai stood gracefully, took Rowan's hand, and walked toward the exit. "If you're feeling the tension right now, hit that like button. Let's see how this plays out." Behind them, Montrell rushed after them into the hallway. "I am so sorry," he said, genuine regret flooding his face. "That was completely unacceptable. I don't share those views. Please believe me." Rowan nodded stiffly. "Your wife made her feelings very clear." Montrell ran his hand through his hair, looking exhausted. I know, and I'm ashamed. This isn't how I do business. This isn't who I am. He looked at Sarai directly. You deserved respect tonight. I failed to provide that. I truly apologize. Sarai studied him for a moment. She believed him. He seemed genuinely sorry. But that didn't change what was about to happen, because Sarai knew something Montrell didn't. As Sarai and Rowan drove home that night, Rowan was still angry. I can't believe she spoke to you like that, he said, gripping the steering wheel. In front of everyone. People like her have been underestimating me my whole life, Sarai said quietly, looking out the window at Atlanta's glowing skyline. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be used to it, Rowan said. You shouldn't have to. Hey! Sarai reached over and squeezed his hand. I'm okay. We're okay. But in her mind, wheels were turning. 2 weeks ago, Elyra Davenport's company had submitted a contract revision to Aduc Innovations. He wanted to expand their partnership, a bigger licensing package for his newest project, a luxury hotel in downtown Atlanta. Not just any hotel. A tech-enabled art hotel with smart rooms, digital art displays, interactive interfaces, voice-controlled everything. The kind of place that would redefine modern luxury. Every single piece of technology in that hotel, every smart feature, every digital blueprint, every software interface, powered by Aduc Innovations. Her company, her intellectual property, her terms. Sarai hadn't signed the revised contract yet. She'd been reviewing it, taking her time, making sure everything was fair. Now she knew exactly what to do. When they got home that night, Sarai sat at her desk. She opened her laptop and drafted an email, not to Montrell directly. That would be too personal. To her legal team. The message was short and professional. Please draft a formal termination of partnership with Davenport Holdings, effective immediately. Cite breach of professional conduct standards. All intellectual property licenses are revoked. Proceed with standard protocol. She hit send. Then she closed her laptop and went to bed. Monday morning, Montrell Davenport sat in his office reviewing construction timelines for his hotel project. Everything was moving forward perfectly. The building was going up fast. Interior designers were finalizing layouts. Marketing materials were being prepared. His phone buzzed. An email from Aduc Innovations' legal team. He opened it casually, expecting routine business updates. Then his blood went cold. Dear Mr. Davenport, effective immediately, Aduc Innovations is terminating all partnership agreements with Davenport Holdings. All intellectual property licenses are hereby revoked. All proprietary technology must be returned or destroyed within 30 days. This decision is final and non-negotiable. Montrell read it 3 times. His hands started to shake. No. He grabbed his phone and called his project manager. Tell me we have backup systems, he said. Backup for what? The hotel tech. All of it. Tell me we're not completely dependent on Aduc. There was a long pause. Sir, Aduc Innovations designed everything. The smart room systems, the art displays, the guest interfaces, the security network. Everything, if they pull their support. The whole project falls apart, Montrell finished, his voice hollow. He hung up and immediately called his investors. One by one, they pulled out without the signature technology that made the hotel unique. It was just another building. Nothing special. Nothing worth their millions. Vendors started backing out of contracts. Construction slowed to a halt. Legal notices piled up. Within 48 hours, everything Montrell had built toward this project was collapsing. At home, Elyra was shopping online when Montrell walked through the door looking like he'd aged 10 years. What's wrong? She asked, barely looking up from her tablet. The hotel project is dead, he said flatly. She laughed. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. It's over. We're losing millions. Maybe everything. Now she looked up. What? How is that possible? Aduc Innovations pulled out, he said, sitting down heavily. Without their technology, the whole thing falls apart. Investors are gone. Vendors are suing us. We're drowning. Elyra's face went pale. Well, fix it. Call them. Talk to someone. I tried, Montrell said, rubbing his face with both hands. They won't take my calls. Their lawyers already sent termination papers. But why would they? Elyra stopped. Her eyes went wide. Wait, Aduc Innovations. That's... Yes, Montrell said, staring at her with exhausted anger. That's Sarai Aduc's company. The woman you insulted at dinner. The woman whose relationship you mocked. The woman you talked down to like she was nothing. Elyra's mouth opened and closed. I insulted some random woman. How was I supposed to know? She wasn't random, Montrell shouted. She's one of the most successful tech CEOs in Atlanta. She owns a company our entire project depended on. And you treated her like garbage because of your ignorant, outdated, racist ideas. I was just making conversation. No, Montrell cut her off. You were being cruel. You were being small. And now it's cost us everything. Elyra sat in stunned silence as reality crashed down around her. One dinner. One night of letting her prejudice run wild. One woman she'd underestimated. And now their fortune was vanishing like smoke. Drop a comment if you've ever seen karma work this perfectly. Have you ever watched someone underestimate the wrong person? While the Davenport empire crumbled, life continued peacefully for Sarai and Rowan. Sunday mornings, Sarai cooked breakfast while Rowan made coffee. They moved around the kitchen in comfortable silence, occasionally bumping hips and laughing. You're more protective of me now, Sarai teased one morning. Ever since that dinner. Rowan wrapped his arms around her from behind. Is that bad? No, she said, leaning back into him. But I don't need protecting. I need partnership. You have that, he said, kissing her temple. Always. They spent evenings at art galleries, talking about pieces they loved and hated. Weekends planning expansions for Aduc Innovations, new projects, new collaborations, new ways to blend culture and technology. Do you ever regret pulling out of that hotel deal? Rowan asked one night. Sarai thought about it. No. My company works with people who respect us. Life's too short to do business with people who think you're less than human. What happened to them? Rowan asked. The Davenports? Last I heard, they're selling properties to cover debts, Sarai said. Montrell might rebuild eventually. He apologized, at least. He seemed genuine. And Elyra? Sarai smiled slightly. Some people learn lessons the hard way. 3 months after that dinner, Sarai and Rowan took a trip to Oregon to visit his family. His parents welcomed her with warm hugs and homemade pie. His grandmother showed her old photo albums and told embarrassing stories about Rowan as a kid. He's lucky to have you, his mother said while they washed dishes together. I'm lucky to have him, Sarai replied. No, his mother said firmly. You both chose each other. That's not luck. That's love. Back in Atlanta, Sarai's business continued growing. She signed new deals with companies who valued innovation and treated her team with respect. She expanded her scholarship program, helping even more young people pursue their dreams. And every day, she came home to a man who loved her not despite who she was, but because of it. One evening, sitting on their back porch watching the sunset paint the sky orange and purple, Rowan said, You know what I've learned? What? Sarai asked, her head resting on his shoulder. That love isn't about matching, he said. It's about choosing each other every single day, standing together when the world pushes back, being each other's safe place. Sarai smiled. This is what partnership looks like. Yeah, Rowan said, kissing the top of her head. This is exactly what it looks like. Their love grew deeper after that night, not because of the conflict, but because of how they handled it. Side by side, together, unshaken. So what's the moral of the story? It's simple, really. Dignity costs nothing, but disrespect can cost you everything. Elyra Davenport thought she could judge people based on the color of their skin. She thought she could insult someone's relationship because it didn't fit her narrow view of the world. She thought she was untouchable because of her husband's money. She was wrong. Success isn't about the color of your skin or where you come from. It's about the work you put in, the respect you show, and the content of your character. Real partnerships, in business and in love, are built on mutual respect, on choosing each other even when the world questions your choices, on standing together when things get hard. And karma? Karma doesn't forget. Sometimes it arrives as a formal email from a legal team. Sometimes it shows up as consequences you never saw coming. But it always catches up. Sarah didn't destroy the Davenports because she was petty. She made a business decision based on values. She refused to partner with people who didn't respect her humanity. And in doing so, she taught a powerful lesson. Never underestimate someone based on assumptions. Never let prejudice guide your actions. And never, ever forget that the person you're looking down on might be the one holding your future in their hands. If this story moved you, do me a favor right now. Subscribe to the Narrative Room for more powerful narratives like this one. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear this message. And drop a comment telling me what lesson you took away from Sarah and Rowan's story. Your engagement helps us reach more people. Every like, every share, every comment pushes these messages further. Thanks for watching, and remember, treat everyone with respect. You never know who you're talking to. I'll see you in the next story.